Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome in. Welcome to Andrelczyk Amusement Academy number 13, Weird and Obscure Coasters. Thought the snow theme music might be appropriate. I don't know if you have snow wherever you are. No snow here in Florida, but it is Florida cold, out in the 40s Fahrenheit. So not too bad, but wouldn't mind seeing a little bit of snow. But anyway, welcome in to today's episode, the last of 2020. Before we move along to the next one, ooh, a foot of snow! Yikes! That's fair amount, but I do miss the snow a little bit, to be honest. I've always been a fan of snow. I mean, I lived in Pennsylvania. I grew up in Pennsylvania, so it was always a nice thing. But I'm sure I get nostalgic the further I get from it. But you know. It's interesting. How weird are we talking? Not totally weird. There's some pretty standard stuff, but then there's just some kind of oddball things. So the idea for this one kind of came out of the One Hit Wonders stream, which we did 2 weeks ago. The idea was there was a couple of things that I thought were interesting and kind of unique, I suppose, but there was a couple of them, or a couple of varieties. So the thought was, this is sort of a catch-all for things that I find interesting or weird. One of my goals with these streams has kind of become to teach people about a coaster they may not have heard of every stream. So the idea is to try and pick up on some of those things and teach of those. So we've got 9 coasters today. And I'm actually going to have to restart the game because the one train didn't spawn right for our first one here. We have our nice land tile here, but yeah, the Reaper would have been an interesting one. We actually did do the mock emotion coaster last week, and that was the other one, and we talked about that. There's just nothing to that ride. It's a vertical lift, a drop track, and pretty much nothing else. Or a vertical lift, not even a drop track, just like one drop in a corner. Pretty simple, but an interesting location nonetheless. But today's 9 that we've got here, we're going to start with IE Park. It'll be the first one we've done in the stream, an IE Park looping coaster. Then we're going to do a Togo looping mouse. Then we'll look at Pax, and there's a lot of different stuff from Pax. You could fill an entire stream of weird stuff with Pax coasters. We're going to pick a couple to be inspired by as we build this one. Then we're going to look at the CCI Weird Creation Lost Coaster of Superstition Mountain at Indiana Beach. And then from there, we're going to go to Misho. And this one is maybe a little bit debatable for this topic. I call it the Misho Thrill Coaster. It's a little bit beyond what Misho did otherwise, with steep drops and things like that, ton of airtime. This one's based on Big Boom at Nassau Highland, so I thought it would be interesting at least. Ooh, the E&F Myler Timber Coaster could be interesting. I don't have that one though, but like I said, those are always good to have as added additions. I'm going to actually go ahead and add that to the list for next time. But speaking of timber coaster or water coaster varieties, the next one is the Premier Liquid Coaster, of which there were 2. And yeah, no custom trains for Superstition. I actually spent a lot of time trying to figure out which ones to use, and I'm really not happy about having the I guess standard in-game mine cars. I just don't think they look good. They're not bulky enough. But maybe, yeah, I might have to turn on the space case signal and see if he can't get in here and do something. Then we're going to look at the S&S Thrust Air, which is not obscure, but it is kind of weird just because there weren't very many, and they are pretty impressive and unique from a lot of other things out there. So we'll look at that one using our nice Space K made train. Then we're going to go for the one that might be new to a lot of people. We're going to look at the Analog Looping Coaster. This is an Eastern European manufacturer who makes pretty much one type of coaster. And they've made it a couple of times across like the Ukraine and other areas. So we're going to take a look at that and see if we can't do one of those. And then finally we'll end up with the EOS spinning coaster. There's one that we're going to be basing ourselves off of that is down in Tunisia, of all places. So those are two kind of new and interesting things. But like I said, I've got to restart the game to actually get this thing up. So while I do that, why don't we just start over on to the coaster database. So let's look at this. This is the IE Park coaster that we're going to be basing this off of. This is at Wonderland Eurasia. Wonderland Eurasia is a park that has the most coasters of any park that is out there right now. They've got a full 17 coasters. I think they're right up there with Cedar Point and Six Flags Magic Mountain. Magic may have 18 or 19, but anyway, it's a great collection of really either average or terrible coasters, barring one Intamin Tenon version. But one of these is this indoor coaster that's got a loop in it, and it's got a kind of decent rock work and everything else. We got this dragon thing and pretty interesting track style too. The lift hill is a compound curve, which honestly is what a lot of IE Park coasters have. So it's kind of interesting in that regard. So the IE Park's an Italian manufacturer, and they've spent a lot of time selling to Eastern Europe and the Middle East, and they've done a lot of different Middle Eastern installations. Which, you know, when you're one of the only people selling there, you're going to do a lot of different stuff. So they have a bunch of things that honestly aren't even in RCDB because they're just pretty obscure. We've got a lot in Saudi Arabia and a bunch of ones in other places. So pretty interesting stuff, I think. But let's check out the video here. See what the video is. Okay, Wonderland Eurasia posted this, so let's have a look. See what there is to see. Kind of a weird one. Curved lift special, I could. The loop actually comes partway on. It's sort of an odd shaped thing. Supposedly it's not that bad. These rides, but they're definitely customizable. They do a lot of different stuff. Let's take a look, because actually beyond the that loop coaster, there's actually a couple other ones, including this indoor one that kind of follows similar ideas. Is it's got these weird curved lift hills that just kind of go do whatever, and interesting little race car theme. And a little tiny loop over there on the side. Alright. I'm just in the process of getting back my train here on the game. Alright. So I think what we're going to do is we'll kind of go for a generic version of these. They do actually have, I think they do on their website, have a number of different different things. And you're right, though. This is one of those that parks would or people would call realistic, or unrealistic, just because it has, you know, all these weird, you know, curved things and everything. They offer a launch coaster, which I think is interesting. But let's see what the catalog has to say. Just out of curiosity, because I know that their brochures actually have some pretty nice layout diagrams and some other things. But we'll start here and then we'll jump into it. They actually offer some pretty big stuff. So this launch coaster, which based on the pillars here leads me to believe that it was either designed for someplace or it was fully built already in some indoor location. This is a pretty nice double looping coaster here. Fits in well. Here's some of the oddball stuff. I believe this is the layout for the one we looked at, which has this weird right-left lift hill and then this kind of helix down. A couple of these drops before we get to the loop halfway through, and then a final helix. But a lot of different odd odd things. Here it is, the Loop 370 underground model, apparently. This one's in Russia. I know it's just an oval, but it drifts. And then they do offer wild mice too, which I think this is pretty interesting. It's kind of a mixture between the Mauer spinning coaster versus this one. There's definitely a lot of interesting layouts and some pretty cool ideas in there. But let's go ahead and jump on back and take a look. Let's go back to the game here. So I thought about what kind of track to use, and I think the best bet is going to be looping coaster track because I'm going to use the spine on it. But we're going to transition into something like a junior coaster, I think, for the lift hill, so then we can do all the other stuff. Let's get all of our cheats and stuff on. Get our rain turned off. Okay. Diving turns on a mountain coaster are fun. Curse of Italy, I like that one. We got a lot of Italian ones today. All right, so let's jump right into this junior coaster here, and we will use this because it is a tire launch or tire lift hill. Pinferry is somewhat of a shame. But although, some of their stuff isn't awful, they definitely carried the traveling coaster business for quite a while. Alright, where's our disable support limits? Yeah, Fabri I do like, because Fabri's got weird stuff. Such weird stuff. Alright, well, let's go a little bit further. I almost wish we had kind of an S-bend that climbed up and everything. But we do not. Alright, so we'll have to turn those into something a little bit later. But they really don't have full-size drops right away, so we're going to do something more like this. Kind of do these little drops. But then I'll go and do a larger one here. Yes, Pinferry has also spent plenty of time copying other people too. They are certainly not blameless in the Italian roller coaster stealing market, which is a pretty large market as it turns out. All right, can I clear this? Can't. I can hop over. We're just trying to kind of meander around, and one of the things that you'll see with a lot of these is yeah, they did. They have I think 3 of those exist. Thank you, Fanatic, for the follow there. So let's see here. We'll come up and then we'll do kind of a diving something or another into this loop. Alright, so we'll see how that speed is. Actually, we can go ahead and probably start this out testing and just kind of see where we land. Get our limb trains here. There's not a good... I just kind of struggled trying to pick a good train for this one. and I was just really not a fan of the selection. We are going to go with a 5-car train, though, because that matches about what we need it to be. We'll put a little bit more there. We don't need that. Alright, slow lift hill is pretty accurate on these things. And you're not really looking for a whole lot of top speed. You're not going to get a whole lot out of it. Ooh, boy, that's a little bit slower than I'd like. So we'll come down. They're not totally slow, but I would say this is not out of the ordinary for some of these. It depends on which one you do. They do vary. It has nothing to do with excitement. It's all for power, I'm certain. It takes a little less power to run up those. Okay, that's got just enough pause there, so let's do that. And yeah, I would agree with you. Intamin it would be nice to have some more of these represented in here, perhaps. Okay, so let's put some brakes like this. Because now we really just have to get it back home. Oh, remember, Euromir is also pulling potentially up to 3 trains at one time up that giant barrel, because there's a lot to that one. Alright, let's see about. I do love Euromir. Euromir is one of those guilty pleasure rides for me. And I think their lift system is cool. Alright, that's a little tighter than I'd maybe like, but the thing is we're already going to be going relatively smoothly. We only have one train. So let's see how this looks. Oh. I had to figure out why that was suddenly. Call it 4. Reality of these kind of rides is that they're site specific. So really, you probably want your site first, and then you want to put the coaster in it, like a mall or whatever. So you would build a mall on this. Not too bad. And then if you were doing this, I'd recommend you come back and you make the lift hill here invisible. So just make that portion invisible, and then put the junior coaster track on there, because it's got the tire drive lift hill, which is what you want. All right. So we will call that one. What did you call it earlier? The Curse of Italy. We'll call that one done. Okay. So there's number 1 out of the way. Number 2, I am a fan of, and I know this is one of those other guilty pleasure type coasters, I think. The Togo Looping Mouse. So, I remember when this first became a thing, that some of these pictures popped up, and it was the Tobu Zoo one that popped up first. I think it was an Ace trip over there to Japan that really brought these to the forefront. Everybody goes, what the heck is this? It's a one-of-a-kind something or another. Well, it turns out it wasn't one of a kind. There was actually more than that. This was the first one, though, here at Togo Zoo. Kind of owes to say that it probably needed a little bit of work, because there's a second little lift hill right after this first bit that means that they maybe had underestimated the amount of speed that was needed. So here's the second little lift hill, which was corrected in future ones. So Windjammer actually is classified as one, even though it is a little bit of an odd kind of mix. The one that I like is there's a couple of looping corkscrew ones, which I think are very neat. They have a diving drop, has some interesting spine, and also has a corkscrew in it. So here's one with a corkscrew in it. How do you reckon that they influence mock rides? I would be a little bit hesitant to say that. But, Togo, I do think gets a bad rap in the United States. I do very much like their coasters in Japan. I enjoyed quite a bit, a lot of what they had out there. So here's the same coaster, which is fortunately just closed. But you can see they had actually just recently refurbished the thing, and it looks really great. But it's kind of a neat car and everything else. So a cool design, and one of those ones that I'm a little bit sad does not exist still. But okay, so let's take a look. Actually, do we have a POV? Yeah, why not? Let's do it. I don't believe it was scrapped yet, but it was definitely taken down. I think the hope was that it was going to make it out, but I hadn't seen confirmation that it was scrapped. All right, let's go. There we go. Average speed lift hill, not too bad. The question for this one is, do you use the Wild Mouse corners or do you use the mini coaster corners? And I think it's probably going to be a combination of both, even though I don't like the track gauge differences. But I think right here, you got to call this the mini coaster, or the Wild Mouse coaster here. Then we'll get this nice steep drop down into this tight little lift hill, or loop. Kind of flat corner, diving corner here into the corkscrew. And we have this nice fan curve before we get up into the actual couple of slaloms here. Kind of the reverse of your typical Wild Mouse, in that the slalom corners are happening at the end of the ride rather than early on in the ride. It doesn't quite look the most comfortable, but that said, it's not entirely certain this is built for comfort. So let's have a look. Back to the game. All right, we're gonna use the mini coaster as our base, I think. We're gonna be jumping all the heck over on this one. Let's see here, mini coaster. We'll pick this one. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and put in the lift hill like this. Okay, and then one of the things that I want to do is just check the loop height. Okay, we'll go 50 feet. Okay, so from here, we're gonna transition over into the Wild Mouse. I'll come off the lift hill. We'll do 2 flat corners like this. And then we'll go to, yeah, let's go to the limb at least, then we can make this look similar. Okay, back to mini coaster, and let's go ahead and make sure we're doing okay. So we'll take this and this. I use the Space K's El Loco cars here, mostly because they can do the inversions. Hey Soap, you've only missed one. We just finished the IE Park looping coaster, and right now we're doing the Togo looping mouse. So let's see how this one is done. Oh wow, they would need an entire new train to do the looping Wildcat. Alright, let's see here. Not quite sure what the momentum is going to be here. Not enough is what it turns out to. But as Zara always says, I'm sure if he's not here, he's probably itching to tell me to adjust the momentum. So we'll do that. Rides list. You can, once I upload this to YouTube, I'll post the download for the map, and then you can download all of them. So this has just about every decent custom ride vehicle made right now. I've got a huge list here. Okay, so we are looking at the, what is this one? This is Mini Coaster 1. So 005. Alright, let's see here. Rides, set, a mass, 005. 005. Okay, let's see if that makes a difference. Or actually, yeah, the problem with the Twin Dragon is the ride. Yeah, I'm well aware of it, but the ride is with the way that it shares the spine through the different areas, it makes it a little bit more challenging to actually do, because you can't share the roll in RCT, which is interesting. Or well, just the way that the rules are heartlined in the game, you just can't do it. So it's a bit of a challenge to come up with something there. It is a neat ride though. But yeah, they shared the lift hill. There's a second one of those going up actually. Oh yeah, thanks. I hate the the what do you call it? The massing in this game. It's just not a fan. But let's kind of continue this through. Now we're gonna go back to the steel wild mouse. Turn. Let's give it a block break here. Yeah, like I said, the two of them are built. The one is, well, neither of them are fully operational yet, but there are others in the process of getting there. Okay, and then we'll put another block break here just to keep ourselves moving. Okay, we do have clearances turned off, so we can make this work. Or do we want to? Maybe instead we just do this, so then it's going to line up just a little bit better. And then I'll turn the corner here. We'll put a block break. Yeah, they're pretty formulaic. I'm not doing a whole lot of new stuff. It's kind of doing the same. Oh, we're in the way. Kind of doing the same thing on each of these, so not a huge like surprise as far as just interesting layout goes, but that's okay. Okay. So now let's go back to mini roller coaster. Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Hot gamer action. I do appreciate. Alrighty, let's roll in some of these turns just to do that, and then we'll mess with the speed just to get that correct with the mass. I'm gonna turn on the forbidden half height just because I feel like it looks slightly better. Slightly. There we go. Right. Turn. Turn. These are always the challenges of this sort of a thing, is just trying to get all this to end up looking okay. I appreciate you guys coming out, at least, and viewing. This was something I wasn't really sure how long it was going to last when I first started doing these, so I'm happy to hear that, or see that it's managed to go all right. I certainly am running out of coasters, we'll be honest with that, is eventually we're going to need to pick some other things, but I have some other ideas for future streams. I've got some potential Christmas ideas too here. Oh, we need that one. I'm gonna feel like this whole area probably can just be kept. But we're already in the process of deleting it, so let's go ahead and delete it. Indoor coaster stream will be alright. I am kind of looking for that, like what's next in a lot of these cases, because they're, like I said, it is. I am running out of things. Now that said, I can easily repeat. There's plenty of these rides that, you know, you can do a whole bunch of different options for them, so that helps. But I think maybe we consider some other thoughts here at some point. I am working on a couple of other things. I'm trying to get a webcam and everything set up because I want to stream kind of going through some of the coaster merchandise that I've been trying to start organizing. So like I'm going through a whole bunch of park maps right now that are really interesting. They're from the early 90s, and they're just kind of fun to look at. So I want to see if I can't set up some more things like that to make happen. All right, let's see here. So we're gonna go with blue and orange. Oop, not like that. All like that. Ooh, Dwayne. Yeah, Dwayne's very nice. Dwayne and Derek and the whole team over there is really good. Right. The only thing that I'm a little bit questioning how this one's going to turn out on is I do have a lot of I do have a really long first section before we get to a block. I can almost wonder if I should have stuck a block up here, which we could always do depending on how it operates. Well, that's interesting. Why did it only give us... Huh. Curious. Well, there's 8 block sections, so we should be... Range. Yeah, you know, it doesn't actually look terrible. I think it's the shading of the rails more than anything. Okay. So let's try again on this. Alright, set mass 05 to, we'll start with 2000. Let's see how that goes. I wanted to do the two-tone with the light blue and the dark blue, but I don't know how that went. We almost got there. Let's try 2500. You know, I thought about the terrain hugging one just because my concern with that one is that you almost need the terrain first in some cases, or you know, you can kind of retcon it in and do the terrain second, which I also will do on occasion. All right, let's restart this. Okay. Okay, we'll try 3500. Why not? Go over 9000. Where would the queue go? Good question. Probably outside the ride, I think. If we made it just barely. Oh geez, it's really cruising. That's not good. That one missed it for some reason. Yikes. That's funny. Well, why don't we instead let's do this. Let's instead go one taller. And we'll smooth that out. Actually, I need to do a flat bit there. Okay. This. Okay. Mini coaster again. Let's try this one. And every time you reset it, you gotta redo the mass, which is slightly annoying. I'm gonna see if I can go a little bit lower just to see if I can get it there. Yeah, I think I would have to do a trim break after if we end up with this. That's the one frustrating thing, that the mass changing does work. It's just not quite the same same way that I'd want to go about it. All right, that looks better. That looks better. This doesn't. Woo. Out of curiosity, can I lower that further? looks a little bit better. Let's zoom it out and see. Try one more time. Still a little bit fast. Let me do one more. No, mass. See if 2000 makes a difference. It doesn't seem to. But I think to the point made, the easy way to fix that one is a trim brake right here on the drop, or even just something to scrub off a little bit of speed on the bottom. But that's fine. We'll go ahead and leave that as it is because I'm happy with the layout. The operational stuff you can figure out at some point. Okay, number 2 out of there. Actually making pretty good time so far. Okay, next up, we get to one of my favorite manufacturers, Pax Rides. So Pax is a very interesting company. They are a Russian ride manufacturer, and not only are they a Russian ride manufacturer, they are also a rocket builder. They build rockets for the Russian Space Agency. Kind of like if SpaceX here also built coasters. So it's a weird thing. I have been fortunate to ride 2 PAX coasters, and looking at them both from the ground, you think it can't possibly work, and it's going to be one of the most uncomfortable rides you've ever ridden. And yet somehow they are absolutely amazing. I did the Formula One ride at Park St. Paul that has the outward banked Wild Mouse corners. Actually, you know what? While we're here, let's look at it. So, Formula Pax. Unfortunately, this one is not there anymore as it has killed someone twice. So that's also the downside, I should say. But a fascinating ride with basically Wild Mouse with outward banked corners. Some really steep drops, and some incredible airtime. Some absolutely incredible airtime. You can see kind of most of the layout here. Just like I said, it looks like it can't possibly work, but it's amazing. These little hills here at the bottom, I remember because it's just a T-bar restraint. Like I don't know how they can kind of get away with some of the stuff, but the launch that you get going down the one hill, I didn't touch my seat until we started going up the next hill. So it was pretty wild. Hey, Coffee, welcome in. We're looking at PAX coasters because they're bizarre and weird and amazing just in general. So let's check on just pull up Cobra at Coneyland. So this is the other one that I've ridden. This is Cobra at Coneyland Park in Switzerland. Funny to me because Switzerland is the home of B&M and right next door in Liechtenstein, Intamin, and yet this is the biggest coaster in Switzerland, with this really kind of crazy reverse point. Here's some construction shots of it. But this is the lift mechanism that lifts it back up. This is the reverse point here. I rode it a year ago, this one, and it actually was surprisingly okay. Like, I expected it to be really unpleasant, and I was gearing up for a terrible time, but it was actually kind of a lot of fun. Yeah, cool. It was retracked by Intamin, but it had nothing to do with the profiling. It was just the strength of the thing. So it's pretty impressive. They actually just got new trains here earlier this last year. Where is? I think there's some shots of them. Maybe. Ooh, 60. Oh, maybe not. Oh, here they are. So Sun Kid just gave them new trains, I believe, with these face-to-face seats and much better looking lap bars. The over the shoulder is not the most pleasant, I will say. That was one of the downsides, but this one looks quite a bit better actually, and is probably a much better looking ride overall. So very interesting. But the ones that I want to look at more so are the wild trains. So there's a couple of different ones here. So let's see, where's the wild train? 12 is, oh shoot, which one am I looking at? Because there is the Austrian one that I do like. There's a couple of other really interesting ones. The thing that makes these rides as interesting as they are is that they're just, the transitions are extreme. It doesn't look like it's gonna work. There's a lot of steep drops. Love that train. I think it's super clever. Steep drops, tight corners, all sorts of fun stuff like that. But the one that I want to look at is is closed, unfortunately. This is Jungle Storm. This is in this was in Abu Dhabi. This is the Shaka Zulu amusement park, theme park. Sorry, not Abu Dhabi, Bahrain. But check this lift hill out. Well, first of all, just check that out, the amount of tight turns and corners and everything like that. Just really fast transitions, really high banks, tight transitions throughout everything, and the whole thing is, you know, banked up at 80 degrees in some cases. And this is meant as a kid's ride. The lift hill. Is there a shot of the lift hill? Let's see here. Here we go. The lift hill is basically a vertical corner, so it just kind of pulls up and turns to the corner, and it just goes straight up into the hill. So let's out of curiosity, let me jump back here while I see if I can find a video of this real quick. Alright, well, we'll go with this one by Mr. Dave Arnold. Yeah, apparently it did. I have no idea why. This is a short coaster. There actually wasn't too much to it, but it's pretty impressive. And from what I understand, it was very good. So look at this lift hill. It's just like straight up. In zero space. There's another curved lift hill. We're gonna dive through some of these incredible airtime hills. High banks. I mean, it's kind of a blur, the whole thing. And that's it. As quickly as that, it's over. So let's exit out of that, and then I think now we can head on back to the game. I don't know why it closed. I don't know if it just reached end of life, because the park is still open, or if they wanted to put something else in place, but it was a shame that it closed, because it is a great looking ride. And a couple of my friends who had ridden it said it was actually a great looking ride. So the question is going to end up being, which one do we want to do? So I'm not quite sure the best track choice, because we can go with mini coaster, we can go with limb, we can go with, you know, a bunch of different stuff. There's a couple of different choices, I think. Let's see here. One more before. I'm going to go back real quick. One more. This one was interesting. This is the Austria one that we were talking about earlier, which uses a pretty cool lift hill and then some column tube supports and everything to do some pretty impressive little airtime hills and everything like that. I mean, look at the way that it threads the needle on some of those tracks. So very cool and definitely in a very tight spot here. This is one of those must-ride ones for me if I can ever get out here to Austria. I have Pax coasters. I'm definitely trying to track down as best as I can. They're just not quite easy to get to unless you're going to Russia, which I'm not at the moment. And thank you for the comment there. I'm happy to have reached 500 or 600 subscribers. So on our way to 1,000. Hopefully not too far from now, but it's nice to be there. So I think we want to use the looping coaster track. And I'm going to use a 5-car mine train, I think. Problem being that the mine train can't really do the same amount of stuff. We'll see what we can do with it. Okay. If we need a 6-car just for some extra speed, we can do it. What I do plan to do is tap into the junior coaster here at some point, so we can use the steep drop well. Clearance checks. Oh, not that one. This one. We'll see how well this shows with the mine train vehicle. Actually, probably build this whole thing in this form. Well, at least it does. It takes that one pretty well. Alright, let's get back to looping coaster here real quick. Give ourselves a little bit more. We're at 40 here, so this should still work. Yeah, that sounds about right. Cat walks over the keyboard and you end up having yourself a coaster. Okay, so we're 25 there. We need to see if it's possible to get to. Out of curiosity, if it can make that. I don't know if it can, but I kind of want it to. Take a look. It does. It does. I have not made a chance toboggan on the stream just because I don't know what I would do it out of. I think that's my biggest issue. There is I don't know how you build it. Or how do you build it and not make it look terrible? Because you got to use the downward 4x4 helix, and that's probably bigger than the thing ought to be. They're awful rides in real life. I'm not a fan. Yeah, that's fair. That is fair. They're not ideal. Okay, let's check this out. That's just a little bit too laggy almost. I kind of wish there was a better option there. So instead of that, we're just going to go flatten. Oh, no. Flatten this out and then. Oh, I thought for sure I'd be able to make that. Somewhere airtime than Silver Star. Silver Star gets a lot more hate than I expect, which is interesting. I mean, I guess I can see why it gets hate, but I don't mind it. I think it's a fine ride. There's nothing that I per se I dislike about the ride. What's what one called? So the toboggan. Search Little America, Ameriricka. That'll get you a good look at one of those bad boys. Trying to kind of sort out what the best way to end this is going to be. They're all pretty straightforward. There's not a lot to some of these. Too close. Wondering is if we can get in here and we can fit that in. One, two, three, four, five, six. That actually works pretty well if we want to go that way. Are you looking at the toboggan? They were popular and portable. Probably because they were portable and probably because they were cheap. I can't say it is a great ride by any means. A Loch Ness would be a nice one. Loch Ness is a classic, definitely a classic coaster. I'm a fan of Loch Ness. I almost kind of want to just flatten it out like that, and I want to see how that looks. Actually, that doesn't look bad at all, to be honest. There are toboggan-like rides in China that have loops on them. I'm sure you've probably seen those before, but if you haven't, I can certainly link you to them. I don't believe any are still open. It looks ridiculous, but I don't think it's actually that bad. Alright, then we'll put a second train on here. Oh. Yeah, that's an odd one. Airplane. It was an early, looks like some kind of a Carry Pro type something. You know what? I don't think the real one would have a second train on this instance, so we're going to go ahead and do it like this, where we'll go through sort of a compound corner here of sorts. Something I always tell you never to do, but Pax is weird enough that I think it's okay. Yeah, Golden Horse really just picks the track type for the job and kind of gets it done from there. Alright, let's go to limb track here. And then we'll pick up the junior track for the rest of this. Okay. This one's maybe not, at least this is maybe not quite so compact as some of the other ones, but it's a pretty good representation of what you can expect from a Golden Horse coaster. Or, sorry, not Golden Horse, I'm reading the chat. What you can expect from a PAX coaster. Most cursed coaster that I have ever ridden. I don't know. I mean, the Connieland PAX certainly does look cursed. Got that look to it. Uh, oh, I gotta keep it turned on the whole time. I forget going downhill. Turn on your lift hill each time. No curved lift hill this time, but not too bad. Yeah, vertical roller coaster is pretty impressive. And did you know that they have a second one up? It's not open yet, but it's under construction. But the track is fully up now. Same layout as the first one. Ooh, come on. There we go. Okay, and then we'll make this thing dark blue. This bright yellow. Go through here and blank these out. All right. There we go. Let's see how the stats look on this. They look average. Actually, better than I would have anticipated, maybe? I actually, the steep to flat, I've kind of enjoyed adopting for like junior coasters, since if you look at some of the smaller milers, these actually have some pretty interesting steep to flat hills really quickly. So I don't think it's that out of the ordinary or looks that bad to use the steep and flat. But, you know, a little bit each their own kind of a thing. But not too bad. Notice we don't have a brake run on this one. It's all being used in the station here. Which for one train, that's totally fine. If you have more than one train, you'll definitely want to do a little bit more than that. But there we go. So that is number 3. That is Pax. And I'm sure we'll revisit Pax later. But hey, nothing wrong with brake failure with a single car train. You just get more laps. Had that happen before. Okay. So now we are on to the next one, which is Loco Sumo. So if you don't know Lost Coaster of Superstition Mountain, you should, because it's interesting, and it's also a really fun ride. This is one of the ones that I have ridden. This coaster was initially, or the building where this coaster currently sits, was initially a powered dark ride of sorts, like through a bunch of caves, car ride sort of thing. The owners of Indiana Beach came to Custom Coasters and asked for a coaster to be fit into the same place. So CCI came in and developed basically a new ride system to fit in there. So it uses the same typical laminated wood build-up track. You can see these two cars in the very small screen here, but have a are face to face, 2 cars in total, have a screen around them, which is so you don't reach out into the ride envelope. You can see this from the construction photos. It all kind of wraps around very tightly in here. Here's the cars themselves. Pretty interesting things. And look at how tight this corner is. So I think the radius is 6 foot at minimum, which is just absolutely tiny. There's an elevator lift at the beginning, right here. And then the whole thing is this interesting blend of actual wooden coaster and crazy sort of cursed former dark ride. Let's see what we've got video-wise. Use Coaster Force's video here. As always, thanks to Coaster Force. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, an elevator lift would be pretty neat to see. I would enjoy that. We're not going to end up using anything in here. We're just going to use a steep lift hill. But let's take a look at this one. So you can see it's got you get your elevator lift. Slightly awkward in that you're looking at like 2 other people. Where there's this sort of outdoor bit to begin with, but because you're sort of self-contained like this with this giant padded seat and a lap bar that isn't doing a whole heck of a lot, you bounce all around in the ride, and it's actually really, really crazy. I would love to see these trains made, and then also see the Loud Mouse style corner in a wooden coaster variety. So that track piece added, which would be really hilarious. So then there's like a pause here for some scenic stuff, but then there's this little drop, and there's another drop, and then the corner outside. I mean, you can barely tell where you're going in the thing. I've never actually seen a good layout diagram on it, but there's a bunch of just really, really funny, kind of odd stuff here. But it's a long ride, you know, for what it is. So let's leave that one alone, and let's get back into it. Oh, not that. We might have to use that for some bits. But yeah, totally crazy ride. Neat because the innovation of having a dark ride there and not wanting to get rid of the structure really required a lot of pretty interesting innovation as far as the park was concerned, and for CCI. CCI did lots of cool stuff. I am a big fan of their work. Okay, so since we're not going to do an elevator lift, I'm just going to go ahead and do a steep lift hill here. Oop. Question is, how steep do I, or how tall do I want it? That's a better question. The other question too is going to be just how. Question is going to be just how much do we want, or how much speed are we going to lose on this whole thing? Why don't we see if we can keep it here for now? See how we do with two of these mine cars. This would be one of those that I would really love to see some custom trains for, like we had already said. There's just not a whole lot of use outside of these couple, or this one, I suppose. Track is not a complete circuit. Oof. The biggest challenge we get into here is stuff like this, where it's just going to be really, really difficult to make some of these work. Wooden roller coaster. I'm not using the stagecoaches. I'd rather die. I hate it. It's actually a decent suggestion. Like, never in my life have I wanted something to exist less than that. Alright, can I get up to... The problem is that both the same with the stagecoaches is that it's just such a tight little ride that you can barely do much with it. Gotta add the loop. Important. All right, let's see if that it does make it up to the here, so we can at least have that. A lot of this was flat corners too, just because they're, it didn't have any particular stuff to it. 30, it's not going to make that. Nope, not going to make that. Where are these go? They're based off of, if you look up, oh, it's at Southport Pleasureland, or was it Southport Pleasureland? The King Solomon, you look up King Solomon's Mines at Southport Pleasureland. I think that's where they were based off of. If we can't put a little hill in here, if it's going to be enough, or if we need too much more. Oh, the stagecoaches? I don't think any of the custom stuff from that pack was based off of a real thing. Okay, I think we're gonna actually just end it there because I'm not sure what else we can do with it. The speed differential and lack of pieces makes this one a little bit difficult. The stagecoaches can do curved corners, can't they? I wonder, all right. What are they called? The stagecoach ones? Anybody remember? Oh no, I've turned off the special the expansion packs because they're so terrible. Stagecoaches. Ugh. Hate myself. Alright. That's the stagecoaches. We have to, it was asked. The Dragon Balls are from Split Vision's Realms of Dragon Ball Park. I actually did a review on it. If you look on my channel on YouTube, you can see it. It's a super cool park. Really, really cool park. This is why we can't have nice things. Look at this terrible crap. Oh, it's just so bad. Ooh. To be fair, though, the mass it keeps its speed a lot better. But since we don't hate ourselves that much, we're gonna go back to this. No, not those. These. So, because we want to sleep well tonight, so we're not going to include those. Now I'll go ahead and just drop in these other parts and pieces. It's such a shame because the expansion packs could have been really, really good. And that's what always kills me about it is I'm like I look at the expansion packs and go, man, you guys could have been just amazing. You look at the original Zoo Tycoon, they had great expansion packs. And then now you're just left with this kind of stuff. And it's such a shame. There could have been so nice. There you go. A somewhat uninspired one here. There's not a whole lot of good stuff here, but I would say with this one, if you adjust the mass on the ride, you can probably play with this a little bit more and do a lot more. Maybe we'll revisit that later on today, depending on what happens. Okay. But yeah, I think that was the thing, is that it wasn't even based off of anything. At least all the original rides are based off of real stuff. And that was one of the things that RCT3 got right, is they had weird things, but they were all based off of real concepts or patents or things that existed to some extent. So it's annoying for me to think that the RCT2 expansions just totally threw it out the window and said, well, let's just do whatever. That was a little disappointing. Anyway, let's take a look at the next one here. Which the next one is, I was actually kind of debating whether or not I wanted to add this one on here, because there's a lot of Misho coasters and it doesn't necessarily do anything particularly interesting, except that it's got a really steep drop. So Japanese coasters are, they were known as jet coasters for the most part, as a lot of these early Japanese coasters, and we'll actually look at the same park has one of what you would call a traditional jet coaster, which is this guy, this red one, or it's low slope hills and flat corners or low banked corners, and just very long, very meandering, just kind of goes off, does its stuff, and then comes on back. Usually long rides. I mean, this one's nearly 4,000 feet long. But then there's a couple of these kind of advancements that came along, and we end up with Big Boom, which is the blue one in the back here. Nasu Highland has all these coasters that are just knotted up. It looks like an RCT park, which is crazy. Here, this is the steep drop on the ride, and so they kind of turn it up to 11 for one of these, and it's an oddball ride because it's got a long lift hill, it's got a flat turnaround up top, including like an S bend that brings it closer to the station run. It's got this drop that's almost vertical, and the airtime in the back is absolutely incredible, really, really strong, and it still has over the shoulder restraints. Like, it's got typical Aero Vekoma type vehicles, and it's not pleasant at all on your shoulders. So definitely an unpleasant ride. I did get to ride this one, by the way, so this one was a cool one. Then it's got a pretty spectacular airtime hill. Then it's got a loop. Then it has another corner here at the end that also has an S-bend and a flat corner. And then it has brakes, which are tires. So you can kind of smell burning rubber on the ride because of the tires. This was an early Misho thing as far as brakes go. At least with tires, you don't have to have them adjust or anything. It's just the tire sits there and spins when it gets hit, and you have it spring loaded to pull towards the train, and it will slow it down. It's just gonna, take a lot of wear and probably need to get replaced a lot. So pretty interesting ride though. Let's see, what videos do we have? Extreme Roller Force. All right, why not? I don't know who these guys are, but I don't know if even Hamilton can manage these tires. This is a great video. I wonder where they got this. I'll mark this one down, this channel down to watch. Let's first go ahead and skip through about a minute worth of this, because that's going to be the lift hill. Keep it going. All right. This one does have a slow lift hill, so on purpose we will make sure that it is very slow. That's just how Japanese coasters are for whatever reason. We have our flat corner. Picking up a little bit of speed here. Here's this kind of oddball S-bend. And then, holy crap, airtime as it goes almost vertical down here. And plows over this hill really, really fast. Moves through this loop at a pretty good pace also. Plows through this hill. This one's got a little bit of banking to it, but basically mirroring what we did on the first bit. And then as we come down, we're already slowing down. Tires, 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 tires. Tires, 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 tires. Now we're going to course correct to get back to the station. And tires. So pretty interesting, for sure. So, yeah, thanks to Extreme Roller Force for that one there. Do parks have their own camera setups for official onboards? It depends. Some parks do. We do. And I'm sure most parks do. I mean, different coasters have different mounts for the different things. I mean, some of them don't have mounts in general. You can attach to all sorts of other things, but like B&Ms tend to be able to pull off the front of the spine and or not the spine, the stopper on the front, and mount a rig that can carry a either GoPro or a larger camera from back when larger cameras were needed for it. So that's definitely some consideration there. Okay, so let's go back to this one because I think it's interesting. We are going to start with the B&M coaster, actually. The parks, I think, will close forever at the current pandemic. I'm hoping it's a small number. We've already seen a couple not make it, whether as a direct result of the pandemic to be determined, but I hope not too many. All right. So there's our loop. But yeah, I hope it's not many. That's what we'll do for this one. Actually, because the pull in and pull out is actually very easy for it, so we can go ahead and do something similar to that. Long lift hill, that's slow. Yeah, I would agree. It feels like it needs to be tighter, or not tighter, but it seems like it needs to take more space. It's not the best looking. It definitely doesn't fit with this piece. I think it is a better fit for this because the radius is more continuous. We'll go with 2. Be conservative. Okay, I'm going to use the corkscrew trains. Or train, I guess, because it has one train. Nassau Highland was one of those parks that I was so disappointed in because I went and it actually took a little bit of doing to get there. It's not an easy park to get to. You've got to take a train to the nearby train station and then rent a car and get up there. I'm sure you can take a bus, but it's still a little ways up there. So it took a little while to get there, and it was just a kind of a hassle in general. But the park just looks really cool. It's like a bunch of eye candy with all the different rides and stuff scattered around. But I am sad to report that all the coasters were most all the coasters were terrible. I really was hoping for more out of it. I was so sad. So we'll do a little bit more jet coaster out of ours, perhaps. Let's keep going. Follow along with that one just to... There's a spinning coaster that's pretty good. That was really about it as far as decent rides went. Yeah, I don't know how to. It would be neat to have tires. I would love to. Like, can we have that as a braking option once we get the new save format? You could either pick from magnetic brakes, clamp brakes, or tires. And they smoke a little bit as the train goes by. It really was pretty amazing how well you could smell the burning rubber at the park. This was maybe not the best decision. I probably need a little dip there, don't I? Alright, we'll put a little dip there. Let's see how we do. Not quite as fast as I was hoping through that, but not bad. Actually, the speed is about where I want it to be, which is I'm glad for. Alright. Let's fix the crawling issue. Okay. There we go. Alright, and then brakes. Yeah. I would absolutely love to see that is something that better defines how those are cared for, because I agree with you. I don't find the mass adjustment to be terribly useful at the moment. I haven't been yet to the Netherlands. I'm really hoping to get there at some point. Europe has been a slow grind initially because I started in Asia. I did Japan and I did China, and then after that, my wife and I did Paris for our honeymoon, which continued from there around northern France and Germany, and then last year I did Denmark, Norway, Sweden, Germany, Switzerland, Liechtenstein, and a portion of France. And Switzerland. So that was a nice time to see all that. But I really haven't gotten up to Netherlands yet, so I'd love to do it at some point here soon. Well, the thing is that whole area can be its own trip, and plus more. I think, as there's just so much to do there, especially now. Because what I don't want to do is go and just do the big parks. Like, there's a lot of small parks that I want to do too because they're interesting. The thing is, when I go, I would do all of them. I would do as many of them as I could. I mean, Efteling, of course. Wallaby, for sure. I would love to do Doing Rail. I'd love to do Drevliet. All of the interesting ones. I want to go to the obscure ones too. Like when I go to Belgium, I absolutely want to do Plopsacu because I want to go to do the Vekoma on the train. Like that sounds that's a requirement for me almost. I I don't think I'm light enough for the Hex and Bassett. I think I could do. I think I might be too fat for those. Oh, I forgot about the vertical drop. Kind of a big deal about the coaster counting, haven't you heard? Gotta check off those wacky worms, right? The thing is that I like the small parks because they have an interesting character to them the larger ones don't have. Even if the rides there aren't interesting. I did actually get to ride the Vekoma Mouse. I did do it while it was up at Idlewild, or while it's still up at Idlewild. It was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. The brakes were harsh, really harsh, but the coaster itself was pretty good. I did like a whole through Pennsylvania trip. I had actually started with my wife in Chicago area and up in Wisconsin, and then continued across and did some other stuff. And then she ended up leaving to hang out with a friend in Cleveland, and then I continued on. So I did Conneaut Lake and Waldameer on July 4th, and then Kennywood the day after, then Idlewild, Lake Monte um, the next day, then Knoebels and Dorney the next day, then Hershey the following day, and then the next day we did this like marathon. We ended up starting in Sesame Place, then we went over to Clementon, then we went to Playland's Castaway Cove, Jillian's Boardwalk, Steel Pier, Casino Pier, Jenkinson's Boardwalk, and Coney Island. So we did 8 parks all in a day, which is crazy and still the most I've ever done. And then we finished the next day at Maury's Piers before going home. So it was a marathon run, but a lot of cool stuff. But you're right, though. The braking behavior actually doesn't look that bad on this. I'd probably hide those and see if I could put theming of brakes somehow on there. I wonder if even something like... It's probably a little bit too much. Wonder about something like maybe bobsled lift hill, perhaps, or bobsled brakes. It might look a little bit different, perhaps. Hey, you could do a go-kart tire wall. What's the worst coaster in each continent you've been on so far? That's hard to say. Because I mean, there's the coasters that just don't matter, like the tiny ones. But like adult coaster wise, probably the Zack Spin at Magic Mountain was probably the worst in North America. In Europe, I don't know. Like the easy answer I think would be that the Wild Wind, the Interpark Wild Wind, but I actually didn't think it was that bad. Like it wasn't. It didn't totally destroy you. I mean, it wasn't good either, but it wasn't totally awful. There hasn't really been a terrible, terrible one. Asia was probably the Screaming Squirrel, in China. That was not good. There was a couple of arrow corkscrew, or well, arrow type corkscrews and other things in elsewhere that were just not great. Used to be just a little bit more narrow, a little bit more as our brake run. Let's see how it looks. Go, go, go. Zoom. I have not ridden an SLC that required stretching, but I've ridden other ones. I had to stretch to get onto a Mauer Skyloop and one of the S&S launch coasters. Kind of has a lot of weird arbitrary policies that change between rides. It's not necessarily the SLCs. It's just whatever the park decides you're going to stretch for. That's what you got to deal with. All right, well, that's... Okay. So let's continue on. That was number 5 here, so really time to review. I did a couple of knockoffs in general. I did a knockoff Mauer Skyloop, which was not as awful as I expected. I did a couple of knockoff corkscrews, which were not... I mean, they weren't good, but they weren't any worse than, say, a bad arrow. So I wasn't missing anything there. I did the Golden Horse knockoff Vekoma Mine Train at Happy Valley Wuhan was shockingly bad, and I don't know how it was so bad because it's just a mine train, but it was really, really bad. That was probably the worst one of those, but from the ones that I did weren't totally awful. I don't know if it's because I'm got more padding or whatever, but yeah, I think there's some arrow corkscrews that can be decent. I mean, you look at like the bigger custom looping coasters, some of those are fun. I do like Viper at Magic Mountain, and Dragon Mountain at Marineland in Canada is amazing. It's probably my favorite. Think about this. It's probably my favorite arrow corkscrew type coasters, like one of the custom looping coasters. Dragon Mountain is somehow smooth and yet is a pretty decent ride. Like surprisingly so. The layout's super cool too, helped by the train. But I will actually do a knockoff stream, Q-Dude. I have an intention to do one at some point, mostly because I want to teach about Chinese coasters, because I feel like there's some sense, and somewhat rightfully so, that it's they're just all the same knockoff stuff and they all produce trash. But some of the ones are actually getting pretty interesting out there. So I want to do a stream that teaches more about Chinese coasters, because I think there's actually a lot to learn and a lot to see and anticipate. I'm pretty excited about a couple of them coming. Alrighty, so this is our first 5, so let's review real quick. We've done the IE Park looping coaster, then we jumped over to the Togo looping mouse, which is still cruising along with our adjusted massing. This is where friction versus massing would have made a difference. Then from there we did our Pax coaster here. We went and did our Lost Coaster of Superstition Mountain, which definitely needs some work. Then the Misho big boom variety here. All right, so that's our first 5. So next up, we're going to have Premier Liquid Coaster. Then we're going to do S&S Thrust Air. Then we're going to do the Analog Looping, and then we're going to finish with the EOS Spinning Coaster. All right, let's get back to it. So we are going to jump over back to the US here and look at not Powder Keg. We're going to look at what came before it. What came before it was the Premier Liquid Coaster. So a pretty interesting design. So this opened in 99, which was right around the time that Mach was doing their water coaster. So Premier was trying to get in on the action there as well. So this is what was came about. This was what was it called? Buzzsaw Falls. That's Powder Keg's artwork. So basically, there was a flume channel followed by a conveyor belt that inserted the ride onto steel rails, like the bi-rail track here. A little bit of a coasting coaster section, then a lift hill, a turn, and a drop into the splash section here that took you back to the start. So a pretty short, pretty interesting thing, but it had a lot of troubles. So it was turned into, by S&S, this launch coaster that has hybrid tracks. So it has S&S track and Premier track on it. So pretty interesting. So, well, hey there, Cody Watkins. Welcome in. Well, my first raid. This is very exciting. Very exciting. We welcome in. We are building RCT coasters today as I teach about rare and obscure, or weird and obscure coasters is our topic today. This is the 13th in our series of Andrelczyk Amusement Academy. So welcome in, everyone. Thank you very much for joining. I am a real-life theme park designer who builds an RCT because it's fun, and I like to teach about history and rides and stuff like that, so that's what we're doing. So today we are building Weird and Obscure is our topic, and we are looking at the Premier Liquid Coaster. So it's pretty interesting. We've been going for about 2 hours so far, and I don't have any of the fancy stuff. It's I need to get all of that at some point, but so pretty interesting interesting stuff. So there was actually 2 Premier Liquid coasters. This was the first one, and the second one was actually at Linnanmäki. Was just taken out a little bit ago. This is Vankoputus Twice. This one was more coaster-like in the fact that it had lift hill, regular drop, some elements and everything, and then landed in the water here. And this one didn't connect or disconnect from the track like Buzzsaw Falls did. You can see the tire drives here submerged underwater, so it's pretty interesting. Pretty interesting ride just in general. This is what the water coaster boats were based off of in the original game, because the water coaster boats look kind of stupid in the real game, and I'm not a huge fan of it. We are still going to use the custom scenery boats from Space Cave because I think they look better, but this is what that one was based off of. I've not been to Efteling, unfortunately. I've been to several hundred other parks, but Netherlands is still just been out of my reach, so hopefully within a couple of years I can get on over there. So let's go back one more, just because I think Buzzsaw Falls is interesting enough that I want to watch the video of what it is now, because I don't think there is a video of Buzzsaw Falls. Just to make sure, no. Alright, so we're gonna check out the Coaster Force video again, as we do. Yes, I would love to get to Efteling. It looks like a great park, and it's very well regarded. So one of these days, I want to get there. We'll see at some point, but hopefully soon. So like I said, this was modified from the original Premier design. S&S came in and did this additional work for it. So keeping this the general coaster portion of that one, you can actually still see the ride trough for the flume portion of this within the site plan here of Powder Keg, which is kind of an interesting thing to see that nobody's really going to notice unless you're looking for it. They also have an old boat from the ride that's up on top of the roof here, which is pretty interesting, I think, just used as theming. So this is, S&S does a lot of weird kind of custom stuff, which I appreciate. And their air launch coasters are what really put them on the map. So this is a great ride, and it's pretty unique too. So Get ready because we're actually going to transition from coaster manufacturer track halfway through the ride, which is pretty unique, and there's not very many that have this. So it's definitely worth seeing. So really cool drop or launch there. Great airtime over the hill. And we're going to do some nice simple corners here, a little bit of airtime throughout, and a nice overbank here. That's some of that legacy arrow type supporting on here. You can definitely tell they gathered some of that. But so get ready here, because right here we transition into the old Premier track. So this is the old Premier liquid coaster track as we come along, this lattice with the cross beams there. And as we hit the lift hill, we'll come on up and press, and then we're going to transition back into the Premier or the S&S track just a little later on. If back when this was Powder Keg, or sorry, not Powder Keg, back when this was Buzzsaw Falls, this would turn the corner here and then have kind of a straight drop down into the final splashdown area. So let's see here, kind of right here-ish, is it would drop straight down and have a nice little splashdown. So we have this little somewhat homage to it with this little water tub that's not always, full. But here we go, into the break. So interesting enough, definitely a curious ride. Although I think we're going to focus ours more on Vankaputuis, because that does more of the kind of what we're looking for. But let's jump back into the game then and take a look. Premier did do a lot of cool stuff. They definitely, I mean, they certainly changed the face of coasters with their limb technology. So the Flight of Fears and everything else, that was a big deal back when we started. And I think their new stuff is pretty interesting. I really like Full Throttle. I think that's a great ride. They're doing well with their skyrockets. I'm excited for Icebreaker, not necessarily just because it's technically mine, but I'm also just excited to have it. I think it could be a pretty good layout. We will see. All right, so we're gonna use the mini coaster track here just because it's the easiest one to do, and I'm gonna go ahead and change to the water coaster boats. So these are Space K's custom water coaster boats. They're based on the Mock Rides water coaster, so looks a little bit different, but it still kind of has a similar seating arrangement, and in my opinion, it just looks better in general. This is probably actually a little bit high for one of these. We don't want to go too high. We're not going to do a lot as far as layout goes, because these really didn't have a whole lot of layout. But we are going to put a little flat piece on top to start here. You're just now getting back? How long did it take you to get cake? What kind of cake did you have? So let's do a nice little drop here. It acts like a regular coaster here. You just missed the history of Premier Liquid coasters, and the POV of Buzzsaw Falls or Powder Keg. So you didn't miss too much. Okay, so we're gonna do a little bit of this, these kind of diving elements, and really the difference between the Premier one here at Linden Maki and some of the Mock Rides ones is very minimal. There's not a whole lot of difference, so you don't have to worry too hard about how some of those go. And we're going to run into our lift hill there, so that's not going to work. We'll do this instead. Let's go ahead and keep running our boat, though, just to make sure that we don't run into any pacing issues, which is very possible. We just want kind of a nice flowy layout that doesn't have too much going on. We'll put this in a little trench. As I always say, do not build coaster track on the ground. Alright. That's what we were worried about. So that's not going to go. We could change our massing. We could definitely do that if we wanted to. Yeah, they do have not a whole lot. Yeah, you know what? We will change the mass just because I do kind of like this. Let's turn here and 45 over 65, which was the original lift height. It's not a huge difference. So let's go ahead and just build our layout, and then we'll get under. Like I was saying, never build coaster track on the ground. That's just not realistic. It's not what happens. You need a space for footers and everything else. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And then we'll come up and what we can do is a couple of different things here. So I want to make sure we get a block break in here. If we're going to run the blocks, is we want to make sure that we can run a couple of trains, just since these boats are so small as they are. So let's go ahead and this will be our block here. We are at 45 over there. I don't want to go too low is my only issue here. But maybe this is where we land. Okay. Now we'll come on down for that final splashdown here. Now what we can do is transition into the water coaster here. And we can do this. So one of two things. You can either do this, or you can go ahead and set up your ride kind of as it stands, and then put the water over top of it. Like I said, the Vonkaputis or Putis at Lindenmaki does not leave the track, so the track is just submerged the whole time, which kind of makes sense. I think that may be a better option potentially, but we can kind of go either way. At least you get the splash down here, which is kind of nice. So we'll go ahead and leave it. And we'll go back to the mini roller coaster here. And that'll bring us back up to the and okay, can't put a block break right after that. We'll add a couple more breaks over here on the brake run just to give this a little bit more of a slowdown. We don't want it to go too quickly into that. Let's go 18 here. Okay. This will let us have, we'll call it 3. Let's see, block breaks can be used directly after the top of the lift hill. Didn't use a block break there. Oh, is this all lift hill? So I accidentally, I think I built this thing with lift hill turned on. Poop. Alternate your blocks. There we go. Okay, so block break regular, block break regular. Okay. Let's spread this one out just a little bit because those boats are a little longer than I thought they were. Actually, there we go. That lets us get 3 in there. Okay, so now that it's spawned, let's go rides list. This one is mini roller coaster 1, is it? Yep. So that's 18. Ride set. Ride set mass 018. Let's go 1500. See how that goes. Meantime, we can get back in here and build ourselves our visible track once again. There we go. Actually, that looks a lot better. Go clear that block break in time, which is nice. The only concern that I have is going to be right here after this guy moves along, because I don't think he's going to get back up this lift hill before this one gets to the block breaks, which is not ideal. Yeah. Now what I think we want to do then is get back in here, pull this out temporarily so we can see what we're doing. Water coaster. And then I'm going to transition right back into the mini coaster here, because it really makes no difference once it's invisible, whether it's, you know, whatever it's doing. So let's do this, and then we can come back and make that invisible later, or whatever we want to do with it. But that'll at least clear that out. So if we speed this up just slightly here. Oh, whoops. Forget you have to reset your mass every time. Yeah, to Indaman's point earlier, I would definitely love to see a proper mass versus friction option. Okay. Now we should just barely clear this. We do. And now the question is, are we going to clear the next one, which is going to be this lift hill down here, which maybe not. Well, just barely. Well, let's just use 4 trains if we really want to, but I don't really see a need to at this point. So we'll call that one a day and kind of be done with it. I think there's more to be said around the theming here. It's a hard choice. I don't know if I would necessarily go with the transition into the water coaster here. I would maybe consider doing just doing your mini coaster track, running brakes, and then just using custom scenery to fill that out a little bit, but you can kind of go either way. But I don't do scenarios. I build pretty heavily custom scenery, solo parks and competition parks and everything. If you look at my profile here on Twitch, there should be some links to New Element, where I am Cedar Point 6 or CP6 around the various Discords. I also have on my YouTube channel, which is where I post most of my stuff, including all the archive footage of the previous 12 of these videos. That's got some reviews of some of my other stuff, but I haven't played scenarios for quite a while. It is something that is a good way to relax sometimes, though, so I'm here for it. I do enjoy seeing that sort of side of things, and I'm kind of thinking about doing some like plussing up of old scenarios, like with custom scenery and realistic rides and stuff like that. So maybe something for the future, perhaps. I'm about to finish a solo park probably in the next couple of months that I've been working on for about 2 years. And once that one's done, then I can move on to something else, which would be nice to have a change. Alrighty, so next up, let's get back to it. We are going to move to the S&S Thrust Air Coaster. So these were pretty interesting. There was 3 of them. One of them existed only at the facility for S&S out in Logan, Utah. Then there was this one, Hypersonic XLC, which I'm gathering, Mr. Turn 5, that you were a fan of this one, because I was not. I enjoyed the launch, I enjoyed the airtime over the top, but the rest of it was trash. It was so bad. It was really rough, just bouncing around. The I-beam and aircraft tire combination was not a good one for coasters. So definitely not my favorite by any means. I don't know how old I was when I wrote it. It would have been, out of curiosity. Let me see when I wrote it. I can look in my coaster count. Yeah, I mean it was definitely unique. That's for sure. Let's see here. Hypersonic I rode on August 3rd, 2007. So that was quite a while ago. And see here. 2020. I would have been 20 when I rode that. So it was a pretty interesting ride anyway. The seats are pretty interesting. This giant like bucket seat thing, the lap bar and all that. Very low capacity. They actually had to reduce the capacity early on because they had a lot of troubles with the ride. So it never operated like it was supposed to. It was always a pretty rough go of things. But you can see all the brake fins and everything. I just remember the sound when it hit the final brake fins because they were all just regular old, narrow, small brake fins, and this thing hit it at like 70 miles an hour. Sounded like a car crash. The real star of these was the acceleration. So Hypersonic was 0 to 80 miles per hour in 1.8 seconds, which is just absolutely crazy when you think about it compared to something like the Top Thrill or King Ka and everything, which granted they're going farther, they're going to over 100, but they're doing that in four seconds or more, and those feel fast to begin with. So this is like another level of fast. Then there was one more, and this is sort of the legendary one out there. So this is Dodonpa, which originally opened as Dodonpa at Fuji-Q Highland in Japan. And it had a much faster launched into this big long corner here, the top hat element, and then right into the brakes. This one was a lot faster. They actually changed it up here a little bit recently. So that was what, 2 years ago, 1 year ago? No, it was more than that. 2016 to 2017. I replaced it with a loop. I rode this. I rode this with the loop, which I was a little disappointed in. I would have rather have ridden it with the top hat, because that would have been a lot more interesting. The loop I don't get a whole lot out of. But the big thing here is the acceleration. 0 to 111 miles an hour in 1.6 seconds. So blink and you're there, and it really is like getting hit by a truck. I mean, it is so incredible how fast you take off when this thing launches. So it's absolutely wild. Totally recommended. Great ride. So very worth your time if you ever get a chance to get over there. But really neat ride, and even with the loop, it's pretty darn cool. I actually had a really good time at Fuji-Q just in general, so would recommend if you ever get a chance to make it there. All right, so let's jump back into the game and let's give this a try. So a couple of different ways to do this. I'm actually going to use the junior coaster track, which is maybe a bit of an odd one, but we're going to start there, and we're going to change this up as we go. All right. So let's actually, you know what? We're going to use the water coaster track because that has a lift hill and not a tire drive. You know, it certainly was expensive. Like the whole Japan trip that I did was a little pricey, but it wasn't as bad as I maybe thought it was going to be. So definitely do your research and try and do as much as you can by yourself, like as far as planning goes, like rather than hiring an agency or going with a trip. I planned the whole thing myself, had a great time, and I'm always happy. I really actually like doing trip planning, so if anybody ever has questions about coaster trip planning or things like that, please let me know, because it is something that I would say that I specialize in to an extent. I've done some pretty crazy trips, and happy to share that information with you guys. All right, so we're gonna go with the 4-car train. Let's see here, 4-car train. Well, Japan's a good one then if you can't drive, because they've got trains everywhere. Okay. So we are going to use the powered launch for this, because while the chain lift will accelerate us, it's not going to accelerate us as fast as I want it to go. So we're going to give this like a 70 mile per hour kick here, and then the lift hill chain we're going to put up at 90 or 80 or something like that. I'm guessing, is Mavericks here today? I don't think he is, because I haven't seen him post at all today. But if you download Silver Lake Amusement Park on New Element, there is a great, there's a really great S&S one in there. I'm trying not to like totally rip that off with this layout because it's kind of similar, but we'll see. What is the real one based off of an RCT? When RCT2 came out, the only one that existed, I think, was the test piece at the S&S factory. So I think that was the only thing that they had to work with, which would not surprise me totally, if that's kind of what it came down to. So the original one was really just an oval with the big top hat element on it. So not totally surprising there. Okay, so we're making this giant corner, which is also, kind of annoying. I don't even remember what the RCT3 one looks like, to be honest. It's been so long since I played. Oh, exactly the same, really. Does it have more elements, or is it still just the same turn, and that's pretty much it? Huh, that's crazy. Okay, so now we're gonna do our... No, hang on. You know what? I'm gonna actually make this a little bit taller here. Then I can do a little bit of adjustment here. All right, do this. Okay. We're just doing this to stretch out this corner, make it look a little better. Yeah, RCT3 had its interesting stuff. I appreciate that they gave things more pieces, even though some of them were a little misguided. But what I really appreciate with RCT3 is all the rides that had a basis in real life that they added in. So like the Tower Coaster and some of the other stuff that was real life, just never necessarily got built. So it's pretty interesting as far as that goes. Okay, so let's go ahead here, and now we're going to transition into... I'll play around with a lot of different stuff. But we're going to go with the Giga Coaster here, and then actually we'll transition to the vertical drop. Okay, let's see what our speed looks like here, because this is what's going to determine how high we take this. Actually, that was about perfect. I'll take it. I didn't expect that to work. Nice. Nice. Okay. So the reason that I'm putting it after the big turn here, not just because I want to mimic what Dudumpa does, I think it ends up working a little bit better, or at least looking a little bit better when the top hat is later in the ride, because when you take it at full speed, you got to make it even taller. And at least here I've scrubbed off a couple of miles per hour, so I still get that really nice long launch coaster thing going on, but it's not going to take the whole time. So I think that's maybe a good look in general. Hello, welcome back. Welcome back, welcome back. Alright, so now we're gonna just wrap this thing up as far as layout goes. So you can do a couple of things. Would not be at all surprising to go just right into the brakes. One of the things that surprised me from riding Dodonpa was that for as short as the coaster is, and as fast as the coaster gets launched, it crawls into the brakes. So it has very, very little speed or good friction on there. It's a pretty rough rough go as far as all that that runs. It's just, yeah, never good. But Max Force isn't quite a thrust air, but it's a similar type of design. It's definitely an air launch coaster from S&S. Definitely has that same overall look of things. But thrust air, this one being a specific kind of one that they don't make anymore, which is not necessarily a huge loss because they weren't very good to begin with, but it's not total surprise. They just didn't run very well. Okay. So I think in this instance, I would probably end up shoestringing this ride to be to have a brake run here on the flat portion up top. Yeah, it was a shame with the loop, because the loop does look cool on Dodonpa. It just wasn't a very exciting addition. I would have much preferred to have the top hat. Like, I liked it. It was still a fun ride, but it was also, it was just okay. I will say, while I did say I did really like Fuji-Q, I gotta say that Dodonpa was probably the one that did not live up to my expectations. Of the four big ones there, I would say that Dodonpa was probably the lowest of the four. All right. We'll see. I want to see how this performs, just out of curiosity, because we'll call this a vertical brake there. Why are we not? Oh, we want powered launch block section mode. Go. That'll look a little bit better. But you're really not going to have much of a layout after this, so I wouldn't spend a whole lot of time on that as far as more layout goes. But I would suggest, if you can, shoestring this with the diagonal brakes or the incline brakes so that you can slow down on that. I am going to do a hacking series on that here at some point soon. I do have a hacking tutorial series on my YouTube channel that goes through a bunch of different hacks. So that's one of the ones that we'll be doing here in the future. That's probably distant future, I would say, a couple months at least. But nonetheless, it's still coming. Not sure I'm a huge fan of that. So let's just to smooth this out a little bit. kind of want to get the crossover again, but maybe it's just not. Maybe it's just not to be. It might be better to go the other way. What type would I set this to for the sake of? You mean track type? So I'm gonna suggest a couple of different things. Wrap this up. All right, there we go. Give this thing 3 trains. Operate efficiently, unlike there. Okay. I didn't even think about that. From the exit station to the first. Let's put that there just so it. There we go. That's a little bit better. All right, so what I'm going to use for this is Junior Coaster, or Water Coaster actually, because it's got the lift hill. But then we're going to come in on top of that. At the half tile height. With Giga Coaster here. Through this whole thing. It would have been interesting to see if more of these were sold, if they would have gotten any more interesting as far as the layouts go. I don't think they would have. I would have expected it to just be more sort of similar to the hypersonic layout. I will say though that the current ones that that S&S is making, so especially the ones out in China, the thrust air, or not thrust air, but the air launch coasters are really, really good. Highly, highly recommended. The one at Happy Valley Wuhan and Happy Valley Shenzhen are both incredibly good coasters. All right, so we'll continue across on this side. Yeah, that's what I'm going to use is multi-dim for the top hat. Although I need Giga for the actual slopes. There, okay. So we've got that part. Oop. Nope. Where's my multi? There it is. Yeah, the air powered I don't get a whole lot out of. I used it when I built my Ultra Twister to do that one. It's just didn't quite have the same level of stuff. Do that. Oh, come on. Hate accidental track merging. Okay, let's pull out that. There we go. The junior coaster has flat rails, which is better simulates what the real thing does, since it was a flat I-beam structure with aircraft tires on the ride. All right, so there we go. There we have it. So that's what I would recommend if you were doing this setup as a in RCT. These are custom S&S Thrust Air coasters here that Space K built for us. They were used first in Mavericks's park, which I can probably get a link for here quickly. You go ahead and do that actually while we wait. Parks. Okay, so check out this park if you're interested in a very, very nicely done thrust air. Also a very, very nicely done B&M Hypercoaster. Also a very nicely done 4D coaster. Mavericks did a very nice job with that. Basically, the concept of his park was an American Fuji-Q Highland, and I think he did a very, very nice job. Spike's interesting, but I don't do powered coasters, or at least I haven't, because I don't really consider them roller coasters. So I haven't messed with those yet, and I'm not really sure there's a good way to do the Spike. You could put it on the steeplechase track, I suppose, but steeplechase is kind of limited, which is a little bit of a shame. I do wish there was a little bit more limiting or factor there that could do some adjustments there. Anyway, so next one up is the analog looping coaster. So this is the one that I kind of identified as maybe one that people wouldn't be super aware of. So Analog's a company out of the Ukraine, and they make pretty much one type of coaster. It's called the Hoverla, and the Hoverla is a very kind of janky looking Eastern European looping coaster. It's a pretty compact, portable-ish design. I'm sure it could be portable. I don't know of any on a fair circuit, but they are pretty interesting. It's got a seats that look sort of like the Pax ride vehicles that we looked at earlier, with the over-the-shoulder harness and the 2x2 seats. So pretty interesting design overall. All the layouts are the same, which is pretty interesting as far as that goes. They've actually sold a bunch of these. There's at least 13 that we know of. There's a good chance that there's more, but there could be quite a few others coming along that are out there, and we just haven't discovered yet, which is part of the fun of this whole coaster searching and everything. But if we go to Analog's website, they actually do have some good information for it, and they have a video which shows a little bit on what's going on here. It's somewhat concerning that the only videos that we have are these couple of clips. You can, if you search in the local language on YouTube, you can find some clips of these, but there's not a whole lot. So that certainly says something about the quality that most of the promotional video is just still pictures. That's definitely not a good consideration, but yeah, it does not look the most comfortable, but it certainly feels every bit of Eastern European. Here's a good shot though. This is the whole layout of the thing. So you get the turn out of the station, lift hill, turn into the loop there, and then it basically is going to just figure eight its way around, and that's pretty much it. So it's definitely interesting. I don't think we have a loop this small in the game, so I can't quite do that, but let's go back and see what we're gonna do. I think we will go ahead and just start with the corkscrew here. All right, so let's start with the. I'll take a look after stream on that one, and take a look, and or if we have time here at the end, I may do a second round of these coasters, if since I think the obscure ones has proved somewhat interesting or popular. Okay. Which one is this, by the way? This the oh yeah, this one. Yeah. That's definitely a pretty interesting one. And I will, Kudu, do the comeback water coaster next time around. It's a pretty cool one. All right. So let's figure out the best way to do this. I don't think we need to worry too much about smoothness. I'm kind of checking back and forth to see how this is set up. Got to get one more piece of track through there. Alright, so we'll... It actually kind of looks like it's got a bit of a curve to the drop, which... we're gonna do, why not? We'll make this every bit as terrible as the real thing. And now I'm actually going to put those the original in-game air launch coasters to use, because I think this is the closest thing to the real ride vehicle, which has 9 cars, which is sort of an odd one. They really are terrible trains, aren't they? Okay, let's go ahead and put this in. Corkscrew. Honestly, not as fast as I thought it was going to go through that. I'm going to hazard a guess and say he did not inspire Mr. Schwarzkopf to do his work there, but you never know. Alright. So we will continue on back the... right here. Doesn't quite go that far out, so I'll have to stay low here. Circle around, because the real thing does go through. You mean the one at oh, those. Yeah. Yeah, that's a consideration. I did do the Intamin shuttle. I did do the Intamin shuttle wing coaster from Victory Kingdom last stream. That was an interesting one for sure. Okay, well, at least we got through that little bit there, so I just have to circle this around, and might not make this half bad. It kind of is. Get that wacky worm with a loop going on. I really don't want to do this double curve thing, but I kind of feel like it might be the only way to do this. Which it would be really funny to see a big park do this. I mean, not like an American park could, since I'm gonna go out on a wild guess and say this does not prescribe to ASTM regulations, but you never know. Let me put that loop in so I can see where it is. I'm gonna use the limb loop, I think. All right. I'm not sure there's a whole lot of assets there to sue, to be honest. Okay, we'll put a little. Like, why not? We'll put some airtime hill in there. Hey, Belgian guy, what's going on? Welcome in. We're building a nice cursed Ukrainian coaster here at the moment. Kind of like the yellow and blue of the one we were looking at earlier, so let's go with that. The colors bring you into a false sense of security that the ride is going to be halfway decent. I guess I should put some brakes in. Maybe those don't exist. Alright. See how it runs. The little S-bend deal in the middle, I'm not a huge fan of, but I actually don't totally hate it. It doesn't feel quite as bad as it could be. So I'll take it. Why not? Let's see how it runs. Oof. Stream with coaches that actually killed. That actually could be an interesting, although slightly morbid topic. Actually, this doesn't run badly at all, to be honest. Like, I'm kind of happy with how that turned out, which is not something I expected to be saying. Stats. I do have a recreation of Chimera, but we are going to do a traveling coaster stream at some point, probably. So then I'll do that layout at that point. I love Chimera though; that was a great ride. One of my top 10 coasters, probably. Actually, this I'm not feeling too bad about this. Like that's a good look. Okay. There we go. So that's number 8. Somehow I didn't notice that the stream stopped halfway through. Anyway. Okay. It was a great wild mouse. Yeah, I mean it was a great wild mouse as far as that goes. This is probably my favorite wild mouse, I would say. I very much enjoyed that coaster. It was easily the best thing at Park St. Paul. Easily. All right, so the last one's a bit of an oddball one. Maybe not as interesting. I should have saved the Hoverla to last, but anyway. Last one we've got today is EOS, which is an Italian manufacturer. Let's see. I'll run through those here in just a little bit. Once we finish this one, we'll go back through all 9 so far. I think we had some pretty interesting ones overall. But yeah, so oh, thank you. I appreciate it. That helps. And yeah, Park St. Paul is one of those parks that is very ghetto. Like, it was a weird park. I enjoyed it though. I actually had a really good time there. The Gravity Group wooden coaster is a lot of fun. The other PAX coaster was closed, unfortunately, which had since reopened, thankfully. But it was a little bit sad to see that one go. They also have a PAX drop tower, which I didn't even know PAX made drop towers. That was terrifying. That was a lot of terrifying, but it was pretty cool. Just in general. So anyway, this thing. So this is EOS, another Italian company. All these Italian companies are sort of out there making sort of small, sort of janky rides that and all sort of copy off of each other. Oh, I hope it's not terrible. From what I understand, those are, I mean, they're usually pretty good. But anyway, so this is King Kong, and this is a spinning coaster by a company called EOS. There's not a whole lot to this actually, so I'm gonna look at the Blue Loop video here and see. It's actually pretty much just this helix. Like, it's got a got this big animatronic, which I think when it opened was actually the biggest animatronic ever, or at least that's what they claimed. Let me see if I can pause it with the one aerial here. There we go. So this is pretty much the entire layout. It's this lift hill. It's a drop into this big helix around this monster thing, or this King Kong, and then another turn into the brakes. So it doesn't do a whole heck of a lot. And from what I've heard, it only actually runs like once an hour. So a little disappointing as far as all that goes. But interesting. I've also heard it's not very good, so who knows. But let's see if there's anything else interesting here, or if it's just more drone shots. Drone shot. Okay, so let's go back and build this. Yeah, it says once an hour on the thing. I think that came from Richard Bannister's trip report. So yeah, not too good. And oh, that's sad about Buffalo Bills. Can I get an F in chat for Desperado? I really want to go out and ride Desperado, like so badly. I want it to reopen, even just for a weekend. I will book a separate plane ticket just to go out there for Desperado if they ever get to reopen the thing. I hope it reopens. Huh. I'll be very sad if it's not. Hey, Hydro, welcome in. You've been out there lurking? All right, so we're gonna do a little bit more than just that kind of a turn, I think, just to give ourselves something slightly more interesting. But we will. This is kind of like an undulating helix almost, and theirs didn't have a terribly steep go into it. It seems to, although I know that there was an or well, I don't think it was an announcement made, but I think some enthusiast talked to the folks who ran the ride or were at Buffalo Bills, and they said that the ride was going to be shut for good, but then that never ends up being totally true. So who knows? I hope that it does. I hope that it's not going to become a casualty, because it would be really sad, because they are. Yeah, I'm trying to. I want to ride all 4 of the Aero hypercoasters, and I've done 2 of them. I should get Pepsi Max next year to get the 3rd one. Um, but Titan is gone, so that doesn't exist anymore. But who knows? The log flume is dead, I think, or at least seems to be. Right. Get ourselves. We're gonna use the spinning coaster ones. Well, that's a hard one. That's a really hard one. Holy cow. Um. Oof. Let me think about that. I'll get back to you. If I had all the money to save 2 coasters that are currently not operating, which would they be? Um. Hmm. Yeah, I gotta think about that. Whatever you calling these? Are these spinning wild mouse? Spinning mouse cars. Yeah, Chiller would be a good contender. I don't know. It's hard to say. Like Volcano was good, but Volcano was also short. I think I'd almost go more towards some of the older school stuff, like some of the older wooden coasters and things like that. But you bring up a good consideration. Ooh, it almost lines up. Let's see if we can't get that to line up. 30. Ooh, Eagle Fortress. Eagle Fortress would be my pick. That's a very good comment. Yeah, Eagle Fortress is definitely where it's at. Blast. There we go. Okay. Yeah, Dengue would be interesting, although I think you can get a similar experience from some of the other Togos, although maybe not quite as interesting or unique. Okay, so it looks like this is actually blue in the real thing, and then track is more. Let's see how well this runs, actually. It's not going to do any of the banking or anything, which is a bit of a shame. But, you know, we'll call that a day. So that's our EOS 1. Okay. So, Belgian guy, you had asked earlier what we had done today, and actually, it's a pretty small coasters in general. But so here's where we started. So this was the IE Park looping coaster to begin with. So that was kind of our little start there. And then we went over and did the Togo looping mouse. In order to do this one, we had to adjust the massing, which makes the thing operate weird. So not the best there. After that, we went over to the Pax coaster. It's a little more spread out than a lot of Pax coasters, but has some pretty nice little steep hills and everything. Definitely has that those considerations that you would get on a lot of these kind of rides. From there, we did the Lost Coaster, Superstition Mountain. We don't really have the trains to work with, so we kind of had to just make do. I would probably redo a little bit of this, change the massing inside, so then we can do a little bit more inside. So something to think about for a future one. So I may do a secondary try at this one, perhaps, and see where that one lands. From there, we did the Misho. Yeah, I could have used this. We put the Stagecoach trains on there, but they're terrible and cursed, and no one should ever use them. So we're not gonna do that. So yeah, the Misho with the vertical drop here. The real one doesn't have a vertical drop, but it's pretty close. It's probably 80 degrees, I would say, on Nasu Highlands. But we have our very slow lift hill here, and we added a little bit more layout than the real one has. But what we don't have in RCT is tire brake run, which is what the real thing has across the top, down the hill, and down at the bottom here. So we just have a couple of different brake pieces here, which we would try and do as some scenery pieces, perhaps, if we wanted to theme this thing out entirely. But we can watch this one. Run that along. Here we go. So it's got that great first drop. Maybe not quite the same speed as the real one on the airtime hill, but it does have the loop taking at nice speed. This is a pretty good airtime hill here. Then we have our flat corner on the other end. Breaking up top and then almost down to here. Like I said, the real one was a little unpleasant. It was definitely rougher than I would have liked as far as shoulder harnesses and everything else. It was not quite the best there, but it's all right. Anyway, we came back from break with the Premier Liquid Coaster. We built something like Vakaputus at Linnanmaki. A little bit more coaster layout here, but we did put the block sections in and everything. I think it'll be interesting. I've definitely seen the patent drawings there, and it's pretty interesting to see how it's gonna turn out. So we'll see. We will see how it goes. It's not broken down. Just okay. So we went from there to, what do we go from? To the Thrust Air Coaster. So the S&S Thrust Air, trying really hard not to do exactly what Mavericks did in his, but we have this instead. Then we did our little Hoverla thing, which actually I really think this turned out all right. It's pretty good. I mean, it's definitely cursed and is interesting, but the yeah, it's pretty interesting there. And then we just finished up with the EOS spinning coaster here. So that was our 9. Actually went faster than I expected. It's only been 3 hours so far, which is usually we're a quarter faster than usual. But I think in general there was a couple of decent good ones here that worked well for everything, but not too bad. At the stand-up mouse, I figure. I'm guessing by the link. Yeah. That's movable yet. I appreciate your yet, as if you're hoping that there will be more at some point. There will not be more. We could do honorable mentions time. Is there a particular honorable mention? Yeah, actually, it's funny now. It's squared itself out. I'm gonna have to do some video editing here in a little bit. Wants to piece together all the other ones, but it seems like it's running smoothly now, which is a bit of a shame that it took a bit of a hit like that, but so it goes. I do like a good B&M stand-up coaster. I think they get a bad rap in general. The early ones definitely didn't age very well, but the Scorcher, Riddlers, those are great. Both of those would definitely be into seeing more of those. Ball coaster, that would be tough. That would be tough. Premier Skyrocket. The Skyrocket's interesting. Is it's not necessarily, I would say, weird or obscure, but it is a tough one for that. But which one do you mean, Hydro? Belgian guy, you did a pretty nice, a nice one. The Skyrocket. Like the one. Oh, you mean just a zero? You mean a zero Tivoli? Yeah, you mean the zero at Edmonton. Yeah, that's true. I do love a zero Tivoli. They are great rides, especially the custom ones. Yeah, Belgium, feel free to post your park on in the link if you would like. Um, hmm. Trying to think if there's a good. Yes, I will get to reviewing it one day. I've just kind of put all my reviews on hold at the moment as I've been busy with so many other things, but that's all right. Okay. I'm trying to think of a good one that might be interesting to do. First gen freefall. I have one of those. That's in the Japanese park, so you'll see that soon enough. But it's not operating. I could make it operate, but um, the impulse of the inline twist is tough because you end up with the you got to go flat and then go back up, so it ends up looking really weird. Because you end up with the inline twist, you've got to you have your thing here, and then you got your launch track here, and then you got to go flat here for a second, and then let's just then you have to kind of roll up like that. Impulse. What do they call it? Oh, inverted impulse coaster. So it ends up being a little bit of a weird thing like that. Titanid Selva Magica, that could be interesting. I mean, it is just an oval, but it's a fun oval. It was a good ride. I enjoyed it a lot when I was down there. Got some fun elements to it. Chiller is interesting because you've got the. I mean, you're coming across with the inverted top hat. One vertical, sure. The other one in here as and this is one of those definite ones to shoestring, but I don't want to get into the Golden Horse ones at this point because I'm probably going to go back through and do a Chinese coaster stream at some point. I actually did do a Golden Horse dive coaster the other day when I was just playing around with it, and I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. So I might end up doing something similar. We'll do this and then I call this a. Okay, so let's change that over to Twister Coaster. Yeah, there's more than that. There's a couple other ones that are not listed on RCDB right now. We sold quite a few. I'll be curious to see when they finally figured out how to make the thing go vertical. Because right now their steepest they can go is 70 degrees. Which is sort of an awkward ask when I asked the Golden Horse guy at IAPA about that. I asked him if they can go vertical or not, and he kind of paused for a little while, and he said, "Let me go check," and then came back and said, "60 degrees is as far as it can go." That was an awkward one. Okay, without passing station, I'll pass. Alright, let's see. Do we want 54 or need well more than that? Yeah, they got kicked out of IAPA 3 years in a row for copyright. They've gotten smarter about it now. They can definitely do the things that. Oh, well, that's gonna run off the end. Yikes! Oops. Oops. They've gotten smarter about how they display their things now. So they've gotten around a lot of the particular issues that plagued them in the past, so they've been able to successfully come, and they are an IAPA member, as is Beijing Shibalai and some of the others. All right, let's see if that makes it. Ooh, just barely. Not bad though. Get it 69. Nice. See how this one goes. I'm not sure analog knows where IAPA is. It'd be a bit of an odd one. Actually, that was just fine. Okay. Do something that the real ones never did terribly often is no, I never got to ride this one, unfortunately. It was one of those that I missed out on. Because I only have been to Great Adventure once, surprisingly. Yeah, there's been a couple of good Mr. Freeze recreations. I think to do it well, you need to shoestring it, especially if you want it to have the backwards launch, like it does now. But there's some other options you can do. So yeah, it's not too bad. We'll say it turned out okay. Well, I think that may kind of cover us for today because we've done a fair bit. And actually, I think this one worked well enough that I'd be interested in doing of more of the weird and obscure streams in the future. So I could easily see going there. Tilt. Yeah, all right. I'll do the tilt. I'll do the tilt. Let's see, what do I want to use for it? I'm trying to remember what I used the other day. We'll just start with the B&M track. Vekoma is working on a new tilt coaster, which would be kind of neat to see again. Considering it's only them and the Golden Horse. I'd be curious to see how they get on with that. Yeah, hopefully they improved on some things. I mean, I'm sure it'll be their current layout models and everything else, which are much improved. I wonder if I can do it as a... Yeah, it is a little bit of a shame that the thrill lift never happened. I do still have my brochure from Vekoma's IAPA booth about that. It would have been really fun to see that one become a thing. I'd be really curious to know the story about how many not manufacturers, but how many parks looked into it and actually considered it as an option. happens if I come down? Out of curiosity, if this works. Work in either direction. Pantheon Gwazi Velocicoaster. I am looking at doing a coasters of 2020 or 2021 stream, I think. So that could be a fun addition, perhaps. But yeah, I'm so happy that Chimera got saved because it was a great coaster. Really, really good coaster. I mean, certainly it was not good to see people die because of it, but hopefully the Indiana Beach folks will give it a little bit more TLC. Give myself some extra space here. It kind of does look quite good, though. I'm excited to see how that turns out. I think it's just he knew what he was doing, and that was, to me, that's the biggest thing. It was there's so much finesse to those layouts that it was amazing. There we go. That's how we're gonna do it. One, two, three, four. Okay. Okay, so go up to 105. Yeah, that outer bank looks great. Oh. Okay. All that a diagonal brakes. This was a somebody asked for a tilt coaster, so we're doing a Golden Horse tilt coaster because I Alright, let's see here. Which use modern corkscrew coaster as our train for it. Let's see if 5 is enough. We may need to go up to 6, just depending on how well it takes some of the inversions. Six is probably more accurate anyways. Well, not too bad there. Not too bad there either. Double roll. The real things are more like corkscrew, sort of flattened corkscrews, but this works. Alright, well, we'll go with that then. I think that seems like it'll work. Let me go ahead and give us a second train, although if it's China, they wouldn't be using a second train because China. I already did the old timer stream. When was that? Number 9, maybe? I did the one from the turn of the century coaster stream. If you haven't seen it, go check it out on the YouTube channel. But yeah, that was a fun one actually. That I think went pretty well. But there may be a second round of that. But yeah, I've already done pretty much all those that you listed. So if you go look up the YouTube video, you can watch the video there. So the link to my YouTube channel is in the description here on my channel. That's where I'm going to post all these videos plus a lot more. So I do hacking tutorial videos, I do park reviews, and there's going to be other stuff here coming along too. So that's going well. So let's see how the guests are not doing so hot. Looks like everybody's feeling sick at the moment. But reversers, yeah, that would have been interesting if they did still exist. But I think we're going to call it a day there, a little bit earlier than usual. But so anyway, if you have suggestions for future ones of these, feel free to reach out and let me know. I'm happy to look through those. So we're going to take probably a 2-week break and come back. I think we will look at... I guess the 2nd of January for the next one of these, but we'll see. If you dude, feel free. I'm always happy to take suggestions, and worst I can do is adjust to something else if we need to, but we'll make it work. But anyway, if you haven't already, feel free to follow this channel so then you get the notifications when I go live. Also, definitely go subscribe to the YouTube channel because that is the best way for me to post all these videos. If you feel like supporting the channel, that's the best way to do it. If you want to subscribe here on Twitch, you can do that too, which helps. If you're an Amazon Prime member, you can do it for free, so that's pretty cool. But anyway, that is all for today, so thank you guys very much for watching, and I hope you have a good evening, have a good Christmas, and enjoy the time. So Merry Christmas, and see you guys later.